Mulk Raj Anand was a pioneer in many ways. He, R.K. Narayan, Raja Rao, they were pioneers. They were the first Indians to really write in the English language for English audiences. Mulk Raj Anand was primarily a propagandist. Freedom movement, the parity in the country, his novels, the Coolie, the village, or Two Leaves and a Bud, were all meant to make the English ashamed of themselves for what they were done in this country. I don't think his later works had the same distinction. Therefore, I regard him as among the founding fathers of English writing by Indians. Mulk Raj Anand, he's gone really far too old to write. There's a time when a writer should realize, like a dancer, his days of writing or as hers of dancing are over. And I think it's time Mulk realized that he has nothing really new to say. He was the pioneer, and these novels were sort of breaking new ground for the Indian writer. And I think they should be read as such in a historical perspective, not as great works of writing.
Widely acclaimed as the founding father of modern Indian English fiction, Mulk Raj Anand was born in Peshawar, now in Pakistan, on the 12th of December 1905 and educated at Khalsa College, Amritsar, India, University College London and the Cambridge University, from where he obtained his PhD in philosophy in 1930. As a part of the charmed Bloomsbury literary group in London, he learnt that a novel is supposed to be an expression of poetic discontent, primarily from the point of view of the novelist to discover himself and other people's selves for them. He started working on the first draft of his novel, Untouchable, which is now available in 37 languages of the world, not a mere eyewitness to the turbulent 20th century history, but a product and a part of it as well. Mulk Raj Anand's growth from a sulking, lonesome boy to an awe-inspiring writer and art historian was amazing. So also was his humility, which is so rare in a man of his achievements. What had the man not seen, said and done? He'd been in the forefront of the historic moments and movements. He was also an artist and an art historian who redeemed nostalgia from the cultural past, a political activist who worked relentlessly for world peace, a social crusader championing the cause of the working classes, an incorrigible environmentalist, an advocate for universal literacy, the culmination of which was his adopting a whole village. Anand received numerous honors, distinctions and awards for his contribution, including the Padma Bhushan in 1968. He was the only Indian who'd been elected a fellow of both the Sahitya Academy, the Indian Academy of Letters, and the Lalit Kala Academy, the Indian Academy of Fine Arts, in 1974 and 1989. As the chairman of the Lalit Kala Academy, he was instrumental in holding the first International Triennale of Art. As founder-editor of the art magazine Marg, he tried to present through the printed medium an encyclopedic museum without walls on the ancient and modern arts and architecture of India and Asia through 136 volumes that he brought out during a 35-year-long association. Mulk Raj Anand died a lonely man on the 27th of September 2004 at the ripe age of 99, leaving behind a legacy and a body of work which will not be easily forgotten. His writings are now being universally reassessed and his contribution to the arts documented in a variety of ways. He firmly believed that the purpose of writing should be not to write epics, but to live them. He liked to call himself a naive poet who refuses to become sophisticated, to whom smiles and tears and the laughter of children are as valid as the self-will of Kant.
Mulk Raj Anand occupies a sort of sacred place in the history of Indian writing in English. Perhaps for that reason, he has been relegated into history, whereas I strongly feel that it's time for our young people in India to start reading Mulk Raj Anand's novels all over again. I think for me the reasons are extremely strong. One, that Mulk Raj presents the multicultural plurality of India, the multilingual and layered society that continues to be the reality principle of our lives today. A second issue is the fact that he is so eloquent and so sensitive about social issues. He talks about caste and class dominations. He speaks most quietly and sensitively about gender issues. And although the turn of events has led to certain changes in the way we look at class, caste and gender in India, I think some of the basic premises that Mulk Raj raises remain relevant even today. For instance, he talks about untouchability. One might turn around and say that Dalit politics and Dalit writing has made us examine alternative views by which we can look at the history of India. But at the same time, in the remoter parts of India, or even in the conscience of many people who profess to be completely modern and contemporary citizens of this country, the notion of untouchability is not entirely gone. And therefore, what Mulk has to say about the preconditions that exist in our social formations and even the internalization of what we feel about caste differences continues to be relevant, at least that is so according to me.
In the troubled 20s, I happened to be in London. I had then entered to the drawing room of Virginia Woolf, the famous writer, as I was working as a proof corrector in the Hogarth Press. During our seance, one day, an English critic, Edward Sackville West, asked me, "What are you writing?" I told him that I was writing a book about an outcast, an untouchable. He said, "Well, this is no subject to writing. One can only laugh at the poor, as Dickens does, the Cockneys." This affected me rather badly. I was an adolescent. I happened to go to Ireland, met the poet A.E., George Russell, and Yeats. He told me, "Son," I told him the story of what happened in Mrs. Woolf's drawing room. He said, "Son, there's no room for you in Bloomsbury. You go back to India to be with Gandhi." Gandhi equates the fight for freedom for India with the struggle for freedom of the untouchables. He wrote to Gandhi. I wrote a letter myself, came back a postcard, come end of March 1927. Anyhow, I got to the ashram, and after a rather long wait for an hour or so outside in the sun, I was admitted to the Holy of Holies. Kasturba was massaging Gandhi's belly. He raised his head and asked me, "What do you want from me?" I said, "I want to show you my novel." "What novel?" "This was an untouchable." I said, "You mean Harijan?" I said, "Well, yes, Harijan." "Well, you can show me the novel, but why are you looking like a monkey?" "I'm wearing this very suit." I said, "Well, this is the only clothes I have. I'll go and change." So he sent me Mahadev Desai, and I got into kurta pajama far too large for me. Anyhow, when I came back, he said, "Well, I'll see your novel, but first of all, if you want to see in the ashram, go take 3 vows." "What are those vows?" first vow, you must not look at women with desire. Bapu, I'll be dreaming of my girlfriend if I don't think of her during daytime. We said, you dream of her at night, don't think of her during daytime. Second vow, no drinking here. So, well, I'm pub crawling in London, or you can pub crawl in London, but no drinking here, only Nimbu Pani. Third vow, you must clean once a week. I'll do that. I settled down and showed him my novel, the draft of my novel. He said, but no, you have used big words, big English words. Untouchable, sigh, moan, groan, they say a few words. They don't talk in such heavy language. I said, no, I thought, Bapu, that if I wrote big words in English, English people will think I have mastered the English language. He said, I thought the same at one time, but I got back to writing simply, and then I began writing Gujarati. Why don't you write in your mother tongue? I said, but I have no mother tongue. My mother tongue is not accepted in Punjab. The language, we have Urdu and English there. All right, write any language that comes to hand, but write honestly and sincerely about realities. Don't say thee and thou, as the English say, and tell the people what people think. Be true to them and be not frightened of the sordid facts of life. Well, I rewrote the novel in draft, read it to him. He seemed to pass it as a possible narrative. I brought it back to London. 19 publishers turned it down next 4 years. Some said it is dirty, some said it was smelly, others said it was foul. I thought I committed suicide, but somebody, a young poet, took my novel to William Foster, whom I knew. I had not gone to him myself. He wrote a preface. The preface was very tender, and the novel got published by a small publisher. It sold 2 impressions in a week. Since then, that novel is in 25 languages of the world and a contemporary world classic in the Penguin series.
What makes Mulk Raj Anand's writings unique is the unlimited range of realism, and he embodied in it the theme song of love, compassion, and freedom. Love for the suffering, deprived humanity, and freedom from pain, ignorance, and hunger. His fiction mirrored life in the raw. Beginning with the path-breaking Untouchable in 1935, which according to E.M. Foster could only have been written by an Indian and by an Indian who observed from outside, Mulk Raj Anand published 19 novels and 10 collections of short stories. He won the Sahitya Academy Award for Morning Face in 1972, the second part of the confessional 7 Ages of Man, of which only 7 Summers, Morning Face, Confessions of a Lover, The Bubble, and the incomplete 5th in a fragmented form in 3 slim volumes got published in his lifetime, while perhaps infirmity prevented him from completing the remaining 2.
When I came back and freedom was nearly announced, I happened to meet Jawaharlal again, be with him, and he gave me a copy of Discovery of India. I read it and found that he had done a miraculous job in recovering from his memory the high points of our civilization. I asked him, sir, all right, you've done a discovery of India, who do the rediscovery? He said, you do the rediscovery. But what was money? Oh, no money. We are a free country now, but we have no money yet. No government has any finance to give you. Anyhow, you go in with Homi Baba and meet J.R.D. Tata. He may help you with the Dara Tata Trust. Already in Bombay, a group had been formed by us called MARG, Modern Artists and Architects Research Group. J.R.D. Tata was very gracious. He said, whatever help you want will be given to you. And there started, on very little money, the adventure or rediscovery of India in Marg, of which I did 136 volumes. But I took care to see that I was not getting any emoluments from the big firm in which I was given in a number of rooms. Marg is the rediscovery of Indian culture in all parts of India: dance, music, folk art, the great monuments of Elephanta, Ellora, Ajanta. In fact, there is no monument of any kind, Hindu, Muslim or Sikh or Christian, which I left uncovered in this and loose encyclopedia. I would like to say that looking back on this situation of creative energy in various fields, I do not feel the complacency that people might feel. I feel that it was probably a service one had to render to the new young who were to come into freedom, which we had won after an arduous struggle.
I think Mulk was, or Uncle Mulk, was the ultimate in the concept of, for India at least, as a Renaissance man. His interest in all the arts, from music, dance, theatre, and of course the lead he said in creating a magazine like Marg. I think that example has not been overshadowed or competed with in any sense since then. And it was like an example for a whole concept of life and the arts. And of course his sense of humor. At one point I took the liberty of addressing him as Mulk, and he looked at me and he said, Uncle Mulk. So he was Uncle Mulk. And Uncle Mulk was not just Uncle Mulk, but Uncle Mulk as an example of what a man should be really, because of his not only concern with the arts and literature, but his concept of freedom. And freedom, not political freedom only, but what I really was very impressed with, of course, was his long almost a diatribe that he made when he was reviewing my book, Shreya of Sonagar, about how he felt, how strongly he felt about women's liberation and the independence of women. And in fact, of course, the whole concept of a man or a woman growing up as an independent thinking person. This was apart from politics. In fact, it was amazing. The whole totality of the man was what was amazing. From being so concerned with the revival of the arts as a whole, to the revival of Indian democracy, to the revival of Indian thought, to the revival of intellectual assertions. I don't think one can really have another like him.
If someone asked me, what then has been your theme, the theme of your writings? And I would say, the hero of my writings is freedom, incarnated in all those people who were not part of history, who were people struggling and dying and fighting in the villages of India, in the small towns of India, in the slums of India. But the overall intensity of the novels came from the talisman of Gandhi. So in many ways I would say Gandhi, freedom and the emancipation of our hearts and minds by the great writer Tagore, Varathol, Bharti, they are the beacon light of my time, and they are people who will ultimately be found to have been the architects of our destiny.
Mulk Raj Anand, like the two others that he's associated with, Raja Rao and R.K. Narayan, is a pioneer. When one uses the term pioneer for a writer, one tends to be a little patronizing, a little condescending, as though the first generation of writers is not necessarily the best. That isn't the case at all. What's important about Mulk Raj is that he brought to his fiction the kind of experiences that, for example, some of the writers of my generation have not had. If I recall correctly, Untouchable was even edited by Gandhi in Sabarmati. His concerns, of course, were, at least in the earlier novels, were entirely social. And even if you think that they are a little dated, that doesn't take away from their both their raw energy and their potency, I think, as social documents. He needs to be reassessed, I think. By that I mean that he hasn't had his due. It's much easier for us in some ways to write in English just because we have had predecessors like him.
In the writings of this new young, there seems to be the impact of the European novel, which asks for love stories which are beside the point. In a society where the 1500 advertisements appear in Hindustan Times asking for prostitution of marriage, it seems to me the love story based on the idea of a man or a woman going about to find a husband for a young daughter is a distraction from the theme of India, the theme of emergence of people from the harrowing poverty and grim struggle for existence into the attainment of the freedom of bread and water. I welcome all the writings, even the bad writing, but I find several of our young people are able to write brilliantly, as is shown in the case of the novel by Arundhati Roy, which is a very remarkable achievement by a woman, following the achievements by the other women, Kamala Markandaya in Nectar of the Sea, Kamala Das in her autobiography, Anita Desai in her novels, Kashi Deshpande, and what's more important, the wonderful Marcel Devi, writing of tribal life from the communist point of view, from within the forbidden circle of a jungle where she's been working for the last 60 years.
The Indian English novel received a new lease of life with Salman Rushdie's Midnight's Children, especially after it won the Booker Award in 1982. It literally opened up new floodgates of creative expression. A whole new generation of writers suddenly emerged to storm the English literary scene. What distinguishes these writers from their predecessors is not only the superb, almost magical use of the English language, but also the contemporaneity of themes and concerns. Many of these novels have sought to break away from the conventional form and experimented with it successfully. That more and more Indian English writers are scaling greater heights, dominating the international literary scene and getting huge royalty advances, and almost all the major awards, is a testimony to the emergence of the Indian English novel as a force to reckon with. The latest being the 36-year-old Kiran Desai, who won the 2006 Man Booker Award for only her second novel, The Inheritance of Loss.